Did you know that? Centuries ago, people used tricks and tips so clever, they could have come straight out of a fantasy movie. Imagine using what you have on hand to survive, innovate, and thrive in a world full of challenges. Sounds like magic, right? But it was real. And today we're about to uncover 10 of the most mind-blowing medieval life hacks forgotten by time, but still full of surprises. Now, many of these methods have been lost to history, but back then, they were the key to survival. They shaped daily life, survival, and even the world as we know it. Get ready, because you're about to step into the past, and what you discover might just change the way you see the world. Imagine this, you're living in the medieval era. Your clothes are stained, your hands are rough, and you need a way to clean up. What do? Well, one solution might just surprise you. Urine. Now, don't start cringing just yet. It might sound odd today. But back then, urine was a household staple with surprising uses. People realized that urine, particularly the ammonia found in it, had natural cleaning properties. That's right, urine was used to bleach clothes and remove tough stains. It worked as a natural fabric brightener, and even the dirtiest tunics could be scrubbed clean thanks to this ancient solution. But it didn't stop at laundry. Urine was also believed to be a potent healing agent. In a world without antibiotics or modern medicines, medieval people would clean wounds with urine, thinking it had antibacterial properties that could help prevent infections. It wasn't the most glamorous method, but it worked for them. People didn't have the luxury of fancy medical supplies. They used what they had, and urine was one of their most resourceful tools. Imagine the shock of today's world if someone recommended using urine as a cleaner, but back then, it was just another part of everyday life. It makes you wonder how many of today's modern solutions could be just as unorthodox in the future. When we think of gunpowder, the first thing that comes to mind is probably explosions, weapons, and battlefields. But in the medieval era, this powerful substance had uses far beyond the battlefield. Gunpowder wasn't just about destruction, it was a key part of everyday life, in ways you might not expect. Before gunpowder was ever used in cannons and firearms, it was actually part of the entertainment scene. Yes, medieval people used gunpowder for fireworks. Picture this, an early version of a fireworks show lighting up the sky at festivals and celebrations. The same explosive compound that would later reshape warfare was once used to create beautiful displays of color and light. But that's not all. Gunpowder also had a surprising place in medicine. Back in those days, it wasn't uncommon for people to turn to gunpowder for treating ailments. Some believed that it could help cure stomach issues, relieve pain, and even assist in treating wounds. While it sounds unbelievable now, medieval people didn't have the same advanced medicine we have today. They had to be creative, and gunpowder was part of that ingenuity. It's wild to think that a substance we associate with destruction was once considered a life-saving remedy and even a source of joy at celebrations. Who would have guessed? Here's something you probably never thought about. How did people take care of business in the medieval era, especially when it came to hygiene? Well, believe it or not, toilet paper wasn't even a thing. Instead, people used hay or straw as a sort of primitive bath paper. It was cheap, abundant, and, believe it or not, effective. Imagine living in a time when the most common bathroom accessory was a handful of hay. While it wasn't the softest option, it was certainly accessible. In rural areas, where people were more connected to the land, straw and hay were easy to come by, and they made for a surprisingly functional solution to personal hygiene. Now, we're not talking about just any hay. The straw was carefully selected for its softness and texture. In fact, people would often keep bundles of it in their homes, ready for use when nature called. It wasn't glamorous, but it got the job done. Think about how far we've come with modern toilet paper, and then imagine using hay as your go-to. It's easy to overlook, but this simple method shows the resourcefulness of medieval people who didn't have the luxury of modern conveniences. They made do with what they had, and in doing so, they found creative solutions to everyday problems. Imagine waking up in the morning and reaching for a mirror to check your reflection. Now, picture that mirror not being made of glass, but rather polished metal. Surprising, right? But that's exactly what people in the medieval era did. Glass mirrors were rare and expensive, something most people couldn't afford. So, what did they use instead? Metal. A shiny, polished metal surface was the go-to option for seeing one's reflection. It wasn't as clear as the glass mirrors we have today, but it worked. People would polish metals like bronze, copper, and even silver to a shiny finish, creating rudimentary mirrors that helped them check their appearance. And mirrors weren't just about vanity. For many people, especially those in religious communities, a polished metal surface had symbolic significance. It was seen as a tool for self-reflection, not just a way to look at one's face, but a way to look inward and think about one's actions and behavior. In fact, some used these mirrors during religious rituals or as part of their daily prayers, finding deeper meaning in the act of reflection. It's fascinating to think about how something as simple as a mirror could have such profound importance in both personal and spiritual life. And while today we take our sleek glass mirrors for granted, these medieval metal versions were a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness of the time. When you think about staying warm during the winter, you probably imagine bundling up in thick coats and cozy sweaters, but back in medieval times, the secret to surviving the cold was often simpler and more natural than you might think. Wool. Wool was the fabric of choice in the medieval era, and for good reason. It was warm, breathable, and versatile. People would use wool to create everything from blankets and cloaks to full outfits that could protect them from the harshest of winters. But what made wool so special? Unlike modern synthetics, wool has natural insulating properties. Even when wet, it can retain heat, making it ideal for unpredictable weather. People didn't have fancy winter jackets or high-tech materials. Instead, they relied on this natural fiber, which was easy to find and didn't require complex production techniques. What's even more fascinating is that wool wasn't just for clothing, it was used for bedding too. Medieval people would stuff mattresses with wool to keep warm at night. Imagine lying in a wool-filled bed on a chilly medieval night, no electric blankets, just pure warmth from nature. Wool was, without a doubt, one of the unsung heroes of medieval survival. And today, we still rely on it for warmth in the form of sweaters, blankets, and coats, proving that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. When we think of soap, we typically picture smooth bars or liquid dispensers, but centuries ago, soap wasn't something you'd find in your local store. It was homemade and made from some very unexpected ingredients. One of the most common methods for creating soap in the medieval era involved something that most people have in their homes already: wood ashes. It sounds strange, right? But medieval people knew how to turn simple ash into an effective soap. The process started by mixing wood ashes with animal fat, usually lard or tallow, along with water. This combination created a basic yet functional soap that could be used for everything from cleaning clothes to washing bodies. Why ashes, though? Well, when wood burns, it creates potassium hydroxide, which is a key component in soap making. This mixture would be boiled down, creating a thick substance that had cleaning properties similar to modern soap. It wasn't as refined or gentle as today's products, but it worked, and in a world where cleanliness was essential, this humble ash-based soap was a game changer. In fact, people used it not just for personal hygiene, but also for laundry, since it could cut through grease and dirt effectively. While it might not have smelled like the fragrant soaps we use today, it did the job, and it was a crucial part of medieval daily life. It's remarkable to think about how, with just a few natural materials, people were able to create something that served such a vital role in their lives. Soap from ashes, it might sound like something from an old fairy tale, but it was a real part of medieval ingenuity. Imagine this. It's a warm summer evening, and you're trying to enjoy a quiet meal or relax by the fire, but the buzzing of mosquitoes and biting insects are making it nearly impossible. Fast forward to the medieval era, and instead of reaching for bug spray or swatting at pests with your hands, people turned to a natural solution: smoke. Yes, smoke was one of the most effective ways to keep insects at bay. The idea wasn't just about creating a little puff of air, it was about generating thick smoke that would overwhelm and drive insects away. People would build small fires using specific herbs and plants like sage, lavender, or juniper, which produced aromatic smoke that acted as an insect repellent. This wasn't just for outdoor activities. Smoke was often used inside homes to keep flying pests away from food, cooking areas, or resting places. Imagine your medieval home filled with the smell of burning herbs, not only to ward off insects, but to create a calming atmosphere. These natural methods weren't just effective, they were easy to create with what was readily available. In a world without modern pesticides, smoke became a lifeline. It was a clever and resourceful way to ensure peace and comfort without relying on harmful chemicals. It's a simple reminder of how nature provided solutions long before the conveniences we have today. In the medieval era, doctors weren't always available, and pharmacies weren't exactly around every corner. So, how did people treat illnesses, injuries, and everyday ailments? The answer was simple: herbs. Herbs were the cornerstone of medieval medicine, and people knew exactly which plants to turn to for various health issues. Unlike today, where we have modern medicine to rely on, medieval people relied on the wisdom passed down through generations, learning which herbs had healing properties. It's amazing how the natural world provided the answers. Take lavender, for example. It wasn't just a pretty flower, it was used to relieve headaches, reduce stress, and even help with sleep. And then there's chamomile, which was used for its calming effects on digestion and as a natural remedy for minor infections. People would brew teas, make poultices, or create tinctures from these plants to treat everything from a sore throat to muscle pain. But it wasn't just about treating ailments. Herbs were also used in preventive care. People believed that certain herbs could keep illness at bay, acting as natural protectors against diseases that might otherwise spread. Sage, rosemary, and thyme were some of the most commonly used herbs in daily life, often used in meals, teas, or even in the air to purify the home. Herbal medicine was not only practical, it was incredibly resourceful. It allowed people to care for their health with what nature had provided: no synthetic chemicals, no modern labs, just pure natural remedies. Picture this. It's a dark, chilly night in the medieval world. There are no streetlights or electric bulbs to guide your way, no glowing screens or bright shop windows. How did people manage to see in the dark? The answer was simple: tallow candles. Made from animal fat, usually rendered from cows or sheep, tallow candles were one of the few sources of light for people living in the medieval era. Unlike the candles we use today, which are made from wax or other materials, tallow was far more accessible and cheaper for most people. It was a resource that could be obtained from animals after they were slaughtered, making it a practical and sustainable option. These candles didn't burn as cleanly or brightly as modern candles, but they served their purpose. They provided just enough light for people to get by in their homes. Whether it was for reading, cooking, or working late into the night, tallow candles became a vital part of medieval life, creating a small flame of warmth and light in an otherwise dark world. It wasn't just about the light, they were also more affordable than beeswax candles, which were considered a luxury. If you were of humble means, tallow was the go-to material to light up your life. And despite their smokiness and occasional stink, tallow candles were a reliable and essential part of daily living. It's fascinating to think about how something as simple as animal fat was transformed into something so important. These little candles may seem outdated now, but in their time, they were a lifeline. Now let's talk about where medieval people slept, because it wasn't exactly like our comfy plush beds today. Back then, instead of memory foam or soft mattresses, the average person slept on a bed stuffed with straw or hay. It wasn't the height of luxury, but it was practical, affordable, and a good way to make a rough night more bearable. Straw was easy to come by in rural areas, and it provided a surprisingly good base for bedding. People would fill sacks or large cloth coverings with straw, creating a makeshift mattress. The softness of the straw would help cushion the body, offering some relief after a long day of hard labor. Sure, it wasn't as soft as modern mattresses, but for those who couldn't afford luxury bedding, it worked wonders. What's interesting is that straw also helped with insulation. During cold nights, straw helped trap body heat, keeping people warmer than if they were simply lying on a hard wooden frame. It might not have been the most luxurious option, but in a world where resources were limited, it was a clever, cost-effective way to get a decent night's sleep. Over time, straw bedding became synonymous with medieval comfort, showing that even in the harshest conditions, people knew how to adapt and make life a little easier. In fact, it wasn't until much later that more sophisticated mattresses came into play, proving that the medieval way of sleeping was practical and resourceful. It's incredible to think about how these ancient tricks, forgotten by time, still have so much to teach us. From using urine for cleaning to creating firework displays with gunpowder, These medieval life hacks were full of resourcefulness and innovation. Who knows, maybe some of these ancient methods will make a comeback in our future. So next time you find yourself in a pinch, think about these clever medieval solutions. You might just discover a hidden gem of knowledge from the past. If you were surprised by these medieval hacks, don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe for more fascinating insights into history's forgotten secrets. Until next time, keep looking at the past to inspire your future.